obviously we're outside because of COVID, and we want to try to be careful of distancing and weather. But I stand here at this building where I've spent most of my professional career building a better city, one that I'm proud of. But I'm not proud of another arrest today of a city council member, P.G. Sittenfeld. And just like the two other council members, I think he needs to resign. He certainly is entitled to due process, but he should focus on that. And if you read the indictments of Tamaya and Jeff and PG, they're all bad. It's hard not to conclude that in Tamaya and Jeff's case, at least part of it was desperation for cash. In this case, it seems to be to accumulate power for power's sake. And so, in many ways, that's worse. But it's all bad, it's all sickening, it's all depressing. As I said last week, council members should not be legislating, should not be deal making. And we clearly need major reforms of city council and the legislative branch of this government. I stand here as the mayor and with the city manager, who you'll hear from in a few minutes. And I want you all to know that we in this executive branch of this government are working hard every day to deliver for the people of Cincinnati. And we do, honestly, with integrity, with spirit. And I think about the police officer and the firefighter and the sanitation worker and the waterworks employee, and know that they are putting you first. And I got into this city I love to build a city for my family, and from the city that gave me so many blessings and my family so many blessings, and wanting to leave a city better for my son and hopefully someday my grandkids, a city to be proud of. And I want the people of Cincinnati to know that we will work to clean up the legislative branch, this corruption, because this is my city and will be my city. And I'll keep fighting. It's hard not to focus on the harms, the real harms that are done by these types of scandals, the people that are hurt. And the people that are hurt are you, the taxpayer and the citizen. Just to give one of many examples, just a couple of weeks ago, there was an effort by City Council, which I told them not to do on the floor of Council, to benefit this developer that was engaged in these quid pro quo bribes, Genedem Ndukwe, for development in Mount Auburn, where he had evicted low-income residents from their homes. And Council had a lot of rhetoric about caring about affordable housing and low-income housing. And so it was weird to me that they were so willing to cast aside the folks of legal aid who were standing up for these residents, who had nobody else but me and a few other council members to say, wait a minute, what's going on here? Now, I didn't know at the time that there were corrupt quid pro quos going on with this developer. But you can understand why reading about all this could get residents, lower income residents of the city cynical, who say, who's going to speak up for me if I'm not powerful and connected? Well, I want you to know that I did, and other council members did. And help this city that we all live in together. We need good people in public office. listening to this and you're as angry as I am, think about running for city council. Think about cleaning up the mess. Giving voice to people that you know too often are being ignored by the legislative branch. Obviously, given the events of 3 council members arrested this year, we need to clean house. We need to clean up the legislative branch. As I mentioned last week, 95 years ago, Murray Seasongood and a lot of other good people helped to reform the executive branch of this city. Civil service reform, merit, promotions. And now, obviously, we need major reforms to how city council functions. And so I talked today with the city manager and the city solicitor about what we can do immediately to look in to how this corruption could have tainted any city business legislatively, and look and work together over the next several weeks to come up with other ideas for reform. And so with that, I'd like to ask the city manager, Paula Boggs-Muthing, to say a few words.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor. Today I sent an email to our city employees to remind them that while this is a sad day, while it's deeply distressing, this does not reflect upon them. Our professional city workforce is separate from the council body. And even as leaders elected and appointed come and go, these employees stay. These employees continue to deliver excellent service to the citizens of Cincinnati every single day. And I hope you, the citizens of Cincinnati, understand that this is a small group of city council members. It is not the thousands of city employees that pick up the trash, that work in our sewer and water facilities, that patrol the streets, that put out fires. These are separate people, separate groups, and the Charter of Cincinnati has ensured that that is the case. Today, the city solicitor and I, in consultation with the mayor, have requested that city staff provide us with information on projects or matters that council members Sittenfeld and Pastor had requested intervention on. We will conduct a review of those matters to ensure that there has been no inappropriate interference or undue influence, and we will report back to the mayor and determine if any next steps are appropriate. Thank you very much.
Any questions? Well, with 3 council members arrested, it's hard not to argue there's a culture of corruption problem at city council. We need to clean house. We need to change it. You know, I was thinking about this, and I was talking to the city manager. And, you know, when I was a city council member, you know, if I wanted to meet with the city manager, I had to make an appointment. You know, for some reason, and for the last, I guess, 10 years or so, the culture's really shifted to legislators trying to be deal makers, and then obviously engaging in criminal activity in some cases. So obviously, I think all that's got to be reformed, and we need to start that process of reform. I've called it out for years, including on the deal that I mentioned just a few weeks ago. And, you know, I think this, you know, there's obviously a major city election next year. Re-examine what the appropriate role everything is under the charter. All of that has to happen now. And so, it's a sad day, and we've got to fix it. Yeah, I think the taxpayers have every right to be upset. I'm upset. I'm a taxpayer. And I am outraged. Like I said, just a couple weeks ago, the same developer who was bribing people was pushing for a deal that had led to the eviction of low-income residents. And the low-income residents were in front of council after months of city council lecturing all of us about the importance of affordable housing. But interestingly, in that case, nobody cared. Even though we had lawyers from legal aid testifying to their plight and how they felt they were mistreated. And the administration said, don't do this, and council was forcing deal-making through city council to the detriment of these residents who felt mistreated. And the administration did not want to move forward with the development deal, but council forced it. I think that people should be very mad. And I think we should look at bringing up all the votes that were tainted in this type of manner.
So, as a lawyer, a former city council person, and a person who understands the law of raising money, when you read that indictment, do you think it crosses the line into bribery and extortion?
I'm not going to get involved into that. All I could say is that as I mentioned at the beginning, that he should resign, focus on his due process. But I'm not practicing law right now, so I want to be clear. It's true that I did practice law in the past. But fundamentally, if you read the indictment, and I didn't read every word of it, but what I did, the pieces I got of it, as I mentioned earlier, when you read the story of Jeff and Tamaya, read the story of PG, Jeff and Tamaya, you can't help but conclude, might be desperate for money. In this case, it was accumulation of power.
Did Abingham trust the other folks that are left in City Hall, Council?
That's up to the council. I trust. I have full faith in the city manager and myself and the executive branch. I certainly have many friends on city council, but obviously the institution is shaken by what's happened this year.
I like to say you spent a lot of your career here. Is there a moment in time or an event or a vote or something that you could pinpoint where you think this culture of corruption started or sort of bad turn?
Well, I think it's there are two different sides to it. One is, there's criminal behavior and there isn't. And criminal behavior is quid pro quo for money. And there are 3 instances that we've read about of council members taking money directly in exchange for official action, according to the allegations. That's just flat out criminal, if true, and proven in court, etc. But as I said earlier, in general, and I said last week when Jeff Pastor was arrested, that council should be legislators, not deal makers. And like I said, when I was a city councilman, I needed an appointment to meet with the manager. Now they expect they can call department heads, managers, any and all times of the night, day and night, and that culture's got to change. Should change.
Have you ever been offered a bribe yourself?
Absolutely not.
When it comes to reform, should Connolly move away from council, maybe, the city manager? Do you have any ideas about that?
I just think big picture, the checks and balances are that they're supposed to set policy, guidelines, approve budgets, and not engage in, we're going to push through your deal when we have a professional administration who vets deals and puts deals in front of council. It should not be specific deal making by council members. It should be broad policies.
How does council deal with them?
All I can, city council's got to answer that question. What I'm going to do is work with the city manager and the solicitor to evaluate any interference that the council members who have been arrested may have engaged in. Make sure we deal with that and propose changes to how council interacts, because clearly that branch is broken.
Sharon, last question. So, famously in City Hall, thanks to tax laws and the end of the year, how things work, we see a lot of development deals come through the city in December. Can you envision, that's a month from now, can you envision walking into council chambers when it reopens after the coronavirus and voting on development deals right out of the gate now?
We're going to keep doing what's good for the city. I don't know specifically, what deals you're talking about, but hopefully all three, well, one of them's gone already, and hopefully the other two will resign, and obviously the people's business has to continue. Well, this is we're going to get to the bottom of any deals that they may have interfered with.
What about the mayor's race? How do you see this impacting the mayor's race?
We need good people to run. I mean, David Mann's a good friend of mine. I'm not endorsing anybody, but David Mann's a good man. He's in the race. I believe he's honest and ethical. And certainly today's events, I think, are going to lead other people to run. And I think there are a lot of good people out there who are motivated for the right reasons, and I hope they will all consider it. We need change. Thank you.